Thank you. I'll call the meeting to order. We have the acceptance of the agenda, the rules of order, follow-up from the September 28th general meeting, business from the floor, presentation on the CBSA Border Collaborative Initiative, presentation on the MCA capital projects update, the resolution accepting the September 28th general meeting minutes, and we have some announcements and the adjournment. That's the agenda for this evening. Could I have a motion to accept? Julie and Sarah, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, so this evening we're hosting our general meeting here at the Snaihne School. It's November 2nd, 2023. I've read our agenda. Chief Vince Thompson is not able to join us. He's out sick. Chief Edward is joining via Zoom. So as it's been part of our regular protocol, I'd like to observe a moment of silence for members that we've lost in the community over the last month. So I ask that we please observe a moment, if we could, at this time. Thank you. On behalf of myself and council, I express our condolences to all those in the community who have lost a loved one over the last month since the last general meeting, and those who continue to grieve this evening. So this evening's meeting is we're starting at approximately 6 p.m. We'll go to about 8 p.m. depending on where we are with the agenda. This is a public forum, so we ask that personal issues not be dealt with in this forum. We consider this to be, again, a public forum. This is as well an MCA facility, and the MCA facilities are a facility that has a respect in the workplace policy, so there will be no, we ask that everybody please remain respectful, that there be no harassment or bullying occurring this evening. We do have members of our staff who are here working, supporting council and ensuring that we're able to project the meeting for members who are not able to join us, and as well as it's being recorded. So if there are personal issues, we ask that you please, we address them on a one-to-one basis, not in this forum. Any items that, those personal issues will be dealt with outside of the general meeting. We can make either a meeting separate from that, or we can discuss following the meeting. As well, again, that this is a public forum, we ask that no names be used to identify MCA staff personnel. Again, public forum, we don't want our staff members to be identified, so please do not identify them. They're not here to answer those questions or concerns. As well, this is a public forum. So we ask that your questions please remain relevant to the discussion topic that we're having. If there is a section from business from the floor, which is the first item this evening, that we have to discuss items abroad. But otherwise, as we move through the presentation, we ask that you please remain your questions to the conversation that we're having, so that we can continue to facilitate the discussion. If there are multiple questions, please raise your hand. I'll make a list of speakers, and then when it's your turn, I'll call upon you to speak. As well as there is any issues that can't be addressed in this forum this evening, that we don't have answers for, that we need to follow up on, we will make a list of those and we report them back at the following general meeting as far as what those action items are. We do have it this evening from the 28th of September general meeting. Excuse me. So again, that's our rules of order for this evening's general meeting of November 2nd here at the Snaihne School. So thank you so much for joining us. So the packages are in the back to my left, or to the immediate right when you come in the door, that has the material that we'll be presenting this evening, as well as the monthly reports. So we'll take a moment to go through the action items from the last general meeting of September 28th. There was a question of what COVID-19 protocols do we follow, and so we're waiting for a response, and perhaps the DOH portfolio chiefs have some information to share on that. Okay. We'll continue to keep that as an action item. Unless there's something you want to add, Chief Cindy? Well, I should have to turn your microphone on then.
Can you hear me? Yeah, so just around 5 o'clock today, I received an update from the Department of Health, and it's basically, reaffirming the issues that have been ongoing with COVID in regards to staying home if you have a fever, no non-essential visits to long-term care facilities. Follow the advice whether you've been tested for COVID or not. Make sure that you know if you're eligible for COVID treatments and how to get tested and get access to them. There is a website, and I know based on the last meeting that we had, we didn't want to hear but there is a website that's available to go and get fact sheets. If you tested positive for COVID but don't have any symptoms, you're not required to self-isolate. You should self-monitor for symptoms and self-isolate as symptoms do develop. Wear a well-fitted, high-quality mask when in public settings, especially if they are crowded and have poor ventilation. Avoid, again, non-essential visits to the vulnerable. Stop the spread. It's important to notify your close contacts so that you can self-monitor. If your symptoms, your infectious period began 48 hours before your symptoms started. If you do not have COVID symptoms, the infectious period began 48 hours prior to your COVID. So it also lists again contacts, how to get in touch with them, close contacts. Individuals with weak immune system should isolate for at least 10 days from the onset. And should you have any questions regarding COVID or concerns, please contact community health. And as you may be aware, the COVID vaccine shots are now being I believe they start tomorrow on certain dates in November to sign into the COVID shots. And that's what I received so far. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for that. Okay, the other item is can the laws be posted on the MCA website? So that has been completed. You can follow the Akwesasne.ca website by clicking departments, executive services, Mohawk government, and the requests for the laws to be posted have been put on the webpage. Request for help regarding the ACF issue. So this is ongoing. The executive director of the MCA has been tasked for follow-up and has followed up on this, and this continues to be ongoing. Can the big manhole near Amby admin office be fixed? So the update from Stanley Jacobs, these are on the list for repair, but old man winter is coming quick, and they hope to have the repair before winter. In the meantime, they'll contact contractors for estimates to repair these catch basins. There are many more for repair, but they're the extreme cases to minimize the hazards. Number 5, can speed bumps be placed on Goanoga East near Mohawk Road? So we sent an inquiry to the roads manager with no reply yet. Is there anything new on that from portfolio? No. Okay. 6, can the sign be updated, fixed, and cleaned up at the Peachtree Mall? So update from Kylie. Yes, I was informed of OE to get that sorted out. It was supposed to be done over the summer months, but we've been backed up with trenching. I inquired with the previous AED Seymour regarding the new sign and gave her a quote. Said that she see what there could be done. Never heard back. Then her term was done. The parking lot gets assessed and cleaned up every morning. My staff checked for glass, bottles, needles, and any other harmful material. We do not have any large equipment, i.e. sweeper, to do with all cleaning on a routine basis. We do what we can with what we have with the push brooms. My arena budget for equipment was not approved, so which includes a small skid steer with accessories for this type of work and all work for the MCA parking lots. Well, quite a bit of information there in relation to the parking lot being cleaned up. Some is done, but that's for follow-up on that action item. Okay, that's it for the follow-up from September 28th of the general meeting. Again, as we move through the meeting, we'll take the action items back and report them at the following general meeting as the progress is happening. All right, so as mentioned, we have changed the format for this evening's general. Yes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
One of the items that I asked previously that in February was and lawyers and people and that
Yeah, my apologies. I don't know why there's not a running tally on them. We'll definitely find out. We'll get that back on there. I do know that you've asked specifically for that, and I don't offer these follow-up items, so we'll find out where it's at and hope to get that reported at the next meeting.
and also with that first one where you said the law.
Okay, so the request was the regulations you placed up there. We can definitely find out if those are on there, and if not, we'll make sure that those get put on there as well. All right, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to business from the floor. So we'll open the floor to discussion this evening of items that members wish to discuss with council or at abroad. We'll go here.
Good evening, guys. So again, I'm going to ask this as another follow-up continuation. So in March, you had a budget, had a general meeting, departments budgets. We had an audit done in June. And in June, I requested for the tally for the consultations throughout the organization.
I believe you meant
And-
consultants.
Consultants, yes. And so it's been since June. And we haven't gotten any follow-up to that.
Anybody want to make a comment on that? So I do think it is probably in line with the question that was asked earlier, very similar question that was asked, and definitely I'm not sure why they're not on the rolling tally of follow-up items to be reported, so. There's members. Finance committee, so we'll make that completed. Yeah, thank you, Karen. All right, folks. We'll hear and then we'll go to the right.
I had a question back at the June meeting as well about council's general expenses, particularly including the credit card reporting from the auditor. I know I have spoken with previous council members who were on the finance committee to see why that wasn't being included, and I was told it was just a matter of including a separate column.
Is there any comment from members of the committee? We'll mark that back on as an action item for follow-up to find out why it hasn't been done. I think that probably, we'll definitely see that it's included in the next audit, but I think you're interested in previous as well. Is that correct? Yes, okay. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Two small items for possibly November's update. Could we get an update on the latest land claims since Seaway defunct? And then also Untitled Nation building, because they were supposed to be passed originally back in 1999 as to how governance should evolve for MCA. So it would be nice to hear from them what suggestions they've heard, and they've been talking hopefully with the law enactment process and committees to make sure that any changes to the election law. Because I believe in your latest report, you said that there's MCR late back. Is that true? And if it is, what's the number?
MCR, sorry, what?
MCR that was just posted from possibly, I think, Monday's meeting, saying that there was a the next step for the election law.
So the resolution that was passed in election law is setting the date for the referendum. That was, yeah.
And what are the dates?
I don't know.
December 9th.
December 9th.
So would the election law then be amended in time for it to apply to the next upcoming June election, because there is a protocol in there that does say a council member eligibility is dependent on their living within that district the year prior.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
I know that there's a provision in there that 6 months prior to a general election, the electoral officer has to be appointed, so that would occur because the 6 months would obviously be the January 1st. So, and the way the laws generally have been implemented, or what do you call this, enacted, it's a date of the vote. So December 9th is several weeks off the end of December.
so it entered phase 3 of the Akwesasne legislative and regulation process, which is community consultation, or up to phase
It's the final phase of
4.
The very last phase that it goes to the community for acceptance or rejection.
Okay, because I know there was an ongoing discussion last time around the MCR that rescinded some recommendations from the legislative committee. And so just to make sure that was understood, because I believe you said the last time was unanimous. But from what my understanding was, it was only 7 members voted on that, so there's still a significant portion of council members that were not present when that MCR was passed to supersede the 4 recommendations that came from the community and change the parameters of the latest amendment process. Is that true?
That there was 7 members?
Yeah.
Yes,
There's a quorum of council.
that's a quorum of council. So
Yeah, it's form. I understand it's still,
I can assure you, if we tried to make sure that everybody was there, it'd be very hard to make decisions.
one of the reasons why back in the day in 1988 and 89, council did do a lot of NCRs passing in front of the community and recorded all those numbers on there. So maybe we could pass some NCRs in front of community, or maybe general or council meetings should be public. You could be able to see what council is doing.
I don't disagree. You can also see how they act too.
Okay. Well, also reminder to council under the regulations for meeting, 2/3 majority can replace the chair if they feel the chair is not up to the task. So just letting council know. So what was up with the censorship on the September YouTube video of the council meeting?
There was issues that were discussed that were related to HR issues, and legal felt that they should not be in a public.
I made a comment and my comment was censored.
I don't censor these things.
Okay,
So my understanding was a specific section around the discussion of MCA workforce. That's what was supposed to be muted. Now, whether or not, you're specific, maybe it was close to the other one, I don't know. A lot of time and energy goes into having to find those sections to mute them, and I don't think that it was intentional that your discussion be muted.
but there was another section where a community member did say an MCA employee's name and did reiterate the issue. That wasn't censored, but other comments were censored.
Again, it's very labor intense. I mean, the only option is to not have them published at all, right? But I mean, trying to balance between privacy and transparency to the community so that other members can listen and view is obviously a delicate balance. And we want to make sure that we're not violating, staff rights.
But there was a whole presentation that was also censored.
I can't speak to the specifics. I don't censor them.
Well, maybe there should be a policy that's upfront for everyone to know.
Yeah.
Right. Also, is it possible for community members to then listen to the actual full thing beyond the YouTube platform?
I would say yes, except for probably those specific areas that are supposed to be censored. We'd have to look into it. We have a consultant that does the privacy analysis for the MCA.
Is that consultant?
Yvonne something, Gauthier, maybe? That sounds familiar? Yeah.
Is that a new person or?
No, I think he's probably been there for about 15, 20 years. You help author the ATIP policy of the MCA, which is very old.
Yeah, I'm in that process right now. It's been over 30 days, and I got a letter saying I'm requesting another 30 days extension for access to just an MCA document. And that was just MCR, 2 MCRs actually. So I find it odd that a public resolution is so censored or at least so restricted for community access. Do you feel that those MCRs should be in some capacity upfront and available for the community to see and understand what council members are really?
Sure, I believe they should be, but those decisions are not mine. The policy dictates what it is. So if you submit an application or a request to the administration follows the rules that are set out for them.
And council sets the rules of administration.
That's right, yes.
So in theory, council could pass a resolution right now saying that the MCRs should be publicly listed. And if there's private matters, then yes, that can be redacted for those aspects, as you know, anybody can get that from their local government.
Hypothetically, yes, but of course, if there was a resolution pertaining specifically to you, I'm not sure that you'd appreciate that everybody sees it. So there are some sensitivities around specific, some of the resolutions, which becomes labor intense for somebody to determine what is allowable and what's not. That's why the policy's there.
Still feels like there's a lot of censorship for a local community.
I don't disagree.
All right, so just letting everybody else know, apparently from the ATIP process, it's $25 to access a document, plus whatever else involved with that whole process. So in theory, if council meetings are that public, and we get to hear the full resolution read out, including the good old 700 pager that I did back in the day, then we would then have at least a public record, availability of public record of what is the actions of council. Because otherwise the community doesn't know what is council like.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. Also, I do support your idea of having the council meetings televised to the community. I've said this from a long time ago. It's just a bit difficult to implement. One is technology. The other one is the sensitivity around private information. Right? We don't have in-camera sessions where theoretically, an individual's loan would be dealt with or things like that. So there's a lot of modernization that's needed in process to ensure that, individuals' identity is being protected.
Yeah, but if I'm doing business with MCA, I honestly know that's a contract dealing with public government and it should be public record.
Not sure everybody shares that same value, but I don't disagree with you.
So we heard a small update on the DCSS comment that was brought to us. And so there will be an update from that investigation, or at least some comments later on from council.
The administration has informed us that they're continuing to investigate the matter.
So we don't want reports that hide and disappear like all of bureaucracy. So A2Z Consulting, I saw that for your strategic planning. Are you still using A2Z Consulting?
The MCA uses A2Z Consulting, yes.
Oh, okay, so what contracts do they have right now? What are they looking into for strategic planning?
The two that I'm aware of was just recently passed was to accept services from them to develop an implementation plan for the strategic plan. And they also have a contract with the Akwesasne Board of Education for governance work. Those are the two that I'm aware of. There could be others.
Okay, so I think that goes with the same idea that for transparency, understanding which consultants have done contracts with MCA should be, publicly available. Because one of the things from the election law that's passed back in '88 was to ensure that council members don't, put their thumb on the scale as to which companies or which businesses seem to benefit. So did that consulting practice follow the procedure for tendering, or was it sole source? At least for the strategic plan.
It would have followed whatever the Akwesasne financial administration law says, and we were told that there was 3 consultants were invited to participate.
Okay, so for the strategic planning, ballpark figure, how much that costs?
The strategic planning or the specific contract that you're asking about? Because this is strategic plan implementation. Council here had an exercise a year and a half ago to develop a strategic plan. So that's been developed. Now this is the implementation of it from the administration.
Okay, because I'm a little concerned there because we went through a big process to do community consultation plan back in 2016, and that was supposed to be a very lengthy process to say that these are priorities the council would do. And then strategic planning, the last one that I read was kind of a little light on talking to that original 2016 report. And we're 2023, we're not too far away from almost 10-year period afterwards. So maybe what does the next 10 years look like?
Yeah, so specifically around the CCP, there's been conversation around that. That document was used in development of the strategic plan because it's what council used that plus previous plans as well as priorities identified from the Akwesasne Community Settlement Trust. They do a survey every year and which identifies some of the top priorities. So those were used as indicators, but specifically to the CCP, their council has recently asked that look at getting it updated.
And just quickly reading through the big packet that you have from all the council members. Thank you all that contributed, really helpful to understand what's happening. There was also mention in there about a number of lawsuits, and I think I recall that as an action item back in last winter as well as number of lawsuits and number of settlements that council has paid out against that has been brought against it.
So that will go back to my earlier comment about making sure that we have the follow-up action items, which was raised over here as well, continue to be reoccurring until they've been reported back.
So council's planning next referendum in December, so hopefully community is involved with that election process because the last time the election changed, it only took 22 people to change the election law. So hopefully we have a little bit more. And even with the consulting that happened last time, there was more than 22 people, rules were changed. So hopefully we hear what the referendum is very shortly. And so how many referendums have not been successful since you took helm as Grand Chief in 2015? You recall?
Probably all of them.
At least Italy was successful.
Well, then there's one. I'm not sure why you're asking that specifically to me around that. It's as if it's a reflection upon me. I don't do all the actioning of the work to get these things done.
But even the last two that didn't pass, which was cannabis and emergency measures, that was only at 38 days for the community to be aware from when that was issued to when it was going to be voted on. And I believe the polling station was only 1 day. And that was a resounding no for both. So is there a general process right for referendums to the community and consultation? Because I know there was always talk about what it would take to pass a community referendum on land claims, and then also what it would take to pass community referendum on legal, especially around changing very particular things like election and membership, because community holds those as very high and dear priorities that should only be touched in the most extreme manners.
There's this general referendum regulations is the framework that's used for referendums.
So one size fits all approach.
Seems as though, yes.
So
Except in the case of the land claim, they have more specific parameters for that claim. But generally, yes.
okay. One last simple question. Is there a whistleblower policy in effect to protect employees if they receive malfeasance for something illegal, immoral happening in MCA?
No. There's a requirement to have one, but we haven't developed it yet.
So I feel that should be a top priority for protection for employees. And maybe they're put into some awkward situations that should be alerted to other investigations.
I don't disagree. I think we need an ombudsman and also an ethics officer.
Totally agree. I remember going to that training from once. So.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you so much.
That's all.
Going in the back and then we're gonna go over here.
Abram
Yep.
also just checked some of the people online as well.
Oh, no. Mr. Johnson.
It seemed very defensive tonight.
I'm tired.
Are you on the wagon?
The bandwagon, I think we're all on the bandwagon.
I don't know, the Seaway plan was defeated. And it wasn't on the agenda for the last general meeting. And then the laws are defeated and they're not anywhere either. I'm just trying to figure out, like, why not? Like, why does stuff have to, you know, like, Karen asked a question 7 months ago, she has to ask the same question tonight for action items, like, the same thing, like, why do we have to be so long for information? You just made us go through everything. And we've seen the unofficial results and the official results, and that was it. It was done. Not to talk about why it was being beaten, you know. And then it should be laying on your feet because you are the Grand Chief, right? Isn't that the way it works? Like, the buck stops here, or I don't know. Well, analogy to use for it. It's just disheartening because it's like stuff just disappears. You told us in the beginning of the meeting that we couldn't use employees' names when talking in this public forum. And then you went into your action items and used employees' names. You talked about Connie Carlisle, and you talked about Ann Seymour, and that's employees' names, right? Anyway, the meeting where we talked about DCSS was pretty emotional, and you keep deflecting to you know, investigation. It's an investigation. You went so far as to censor the video where that happened at a meeting, and trying to understand how, again, you sit here and you say how you agree that everything should be covered. But legal says that, you know, we can produce that portion of the meeting because it has to do with saying an employee's name. You know, we went to a Snaihne district meeting, and we have a lady that's blind, and she said she had trouble understanding the video because she couldn't see, right? She can't see what's going on, and the disclaimer was pertaining to land claims. It didn't pertain to employees or any of that information. You know, the video was put up, but that disclaimer, then it was taken down, and then it was, you know, there was no information on why that happened. You know, just people that shared the video just said, you know, it just said content out there. But no, there was no, you know, MCA is quick to post, you know, a press release of this or that or this or that. But there was nothing pertaining to the video explaining why. You you say there's a lot of, work that goes into, you know, these videos, as if, I mean, it's like, somebody's got a big red pen and they're just, okay, we can't see that, we can't see that, we can't see that. You know, I said the F word 45 times. And I can't hear it, not even once. I said, but that didn't have nothing to do with, unless any of your first names is the F word. I don't know why that was censored out, you know. I mean, is any of your names, first name the F word? That's what I want to know, why that was censored out.
Usually you have that on your hat with my name, so it could be one my first name or my last name. I see you've changed that tonight, so thank you for that. So.
Get it, this, you know, like I said, you and at the last general meeting, you and Jackie were the only ones to have a problem with the participation level of people when it came to the election law. And you and Jackie were the only ones that talked about that. That's the reason why the election law got pushed back and the cannabis law and the emergency management law got pushed forward, but there was no participation in all three of them. So it's like, you know, I'm trying to understand. That's why I'm trying to understand why that. You know, why did you push it back and accept those other two? And they both went down in flames. And this election law referendum that you're gonna have, it's gonna go down in flames. So I'll tell you that right now. Because, you know, apparently the people in here to say I pay for votes, so I'm gonna pay for people to vote no. You know, so I can keep doing my petitions. You know, I think Cheryl has more money than me, so she might have. You might have us standing at the door, you know. Oh yes, vote no, vote yes. I'll have 20s and show up 20s for America. But there's a lot of stuff that it is just it's crazy. The fact that you complain about one law, but not the other two, and it just seems not right. And the other thing is, have you received any violation complaints with your MCR that you pushed through since? Has it been an official complaint filed against you? Like,
Yes, there has been. I received it today, but seems as everybody knew before I actually got it that it was coming.
okay, but so
How is that justice is what I'd like to know, but anyways.
you've been in office for a long time. How many ethics complaints have you had?
Probably two.
Two. That's a pretty good record.
It's not bad.
But just how, like, I know it's about a mumbo jumbo, you know, but I just want to know what. First of all, I want to hear what you and Jackie have to say about the participation level of the referendum and the resounding no that you've received for those. And then I want to know what are we voting on for the referendum for the election law? Because where is that? And then I have something else.
Sure. First, I wanna correct part of the previous question because, one of the things he said was there were changes to the election law, the last time it was voted on, and there were 22 votes. It didn't change, it didn't pass, nothing changed. So, yeah, there were 22, but there were 17 no. And 5 yes, so there wasn't anything. And what was your you want to know what the numbers were? That I don't think it's a good representation of the community. That's why I wasn't happy with it. Because we had a total of 32 people involved all together. There's more people than that here right now.
Okay, but
And
the last question, the last time we asked, what was the participation level for marijuana law and the other law, what was the participation level?
I don't know, I'm not on the cannabis law.
You just voted on it, like you just voted, the 3 laws were in front of you. When you decided to push 2 forward and 1 back, or no?
No,
They were all.
they're all individual, they weren't all like at the same time, but I know what you're talking about is something I said about the participation. Between the 3 meetings, there was 1 meeting in each district. And 1 meeting, there were 10 people, 1 meeting, there were 2 people. I think the other one, there were 6, I don't know, added up to maybe 18 altogether, and then there were 6 comments that were received during the comment period, so that added to that is 24. And then you have 8 people on the working group, that's the 32, that's the amount of participation there was.
Okay, you're from Port Island, you go to district meetings every month, right?
Yeah.
How many people show up?
Sometimes 10 or 11, sometimes more.
How long have you been in office?
It was 2 years in July.
Has that number changed?
Sometimes there's only 8 people.
That's my point, what I'm getting at, and I said it at the Snaihne district meeting was, look at, I had an issue with the fact that you said participation. I don't know, unless you're gonna stand at the door and give laptops away or 4-wheelers, the
Well-
participation levels are never gonna change. So that's the problem that I had was, okay, you had a working class group that did good work. And they put this election law suggestion thing out that people are gonna do, and we're supposed to go and have a referendum. Vote piece by piece, right? Piece, you don't like this, you accept it, you like this, you take it, you don't like it. So why did you take that away from the 32 people? You know what I mean? Like, because guess what? It's always gonna be only 30 people.
Not necessarily, I mean, I did make suggestions a year and a half ago to say, can we have more than 1 meeting? Can we have flyers put up, like, people like to see flyers, not just online or, you know. Send it out in the mail, go on a radio, have it announced on the radio, do as much as you can, and so I made all these suggestions. It's been a year and a half, I wanna say, before the consultation came. And it didn't happen, and I even said, why don't you, you know, if you have more than 1 meeting and you have food, have a meal, have snacks, have prizes, do whatever you can to get people out. Because that's what we don't like when we're consulted that way. Why would we wanna do that to our community? So I did make those suggestions, and I can't say what happened after that.
But do you think the working class groups efforts were insufficient?
No, I don't.
Because I thought it was sufficient. I seen the flyers, I seen I knew where the meetings. And we showed up, the ones that gave that care, we showed up. And that got thrown away, that work got thrown away.
And there were people that I heard from that, well, I didn't know there was a meeting, I didn't know there was gonna be meetings, I couldn't go to the meeting, things like that happened too.
Well, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, right? Well, make special exceptions for people who have all those different things happening in their lives, that's called life. I mean, that's not fair. You know, you ever seen the, you know, in the teachers in front of the class, the one student shows up late and the teacher says, so now what? You want me, I gotta stop what I'm doing and I have to explain to you what the whole class has been talking about for the last hour because you decided that life was more important than the meeting, that was pretty well done. You know, you see what I'm getting at? We're gonna vote on a part of the election law that people complained about after the class is already in the all, in the classroom for an hour. And that's not fair to the classroom, right?
Well,
That's not fair. That's not fair that 3 people were able to complain afterwards, after the fact, after all the meetings were done, because you could have went to any one of them. And their item is now being voted on for a referendum, and the rest of us, it was for nothing that we sat there. We wasted our time for hours and sat there, 32 of us or whatever it is. But you see my point.
I see your point, but it's not 3 people, it was a lot more. And, you know, I'm not the only one that,
Don't deflect this, I'm having a conversation with you, please.
go ahead.
That's, you know, people that, complain to you, where they actually on the voters list. They have a right to be there complaining to you, right from the American side, because I see a lot of American crime papers. You know, I did. And that's what I wanna know, like, who are you talking? Who was complaining to you?
Did you go to the meeting where, we did the MCR for Vince to be removed on the island?
No, my grandpa passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear that. There was, quite a crowd there and they had a lot to say about it.
Okay, but why weren't those same people, some of those same people were at the election law review, right?
I don't know. We weren't involved in any of that. We didn't go to the consultation meetings, any of that.
But I think if you would have asked, they probably would.
I wouldn't know.
Okay, we're gonna move along. Thank you so much for your questions and concerns. We're gonna go over here to Cheryl.
Thank you. I have 3 questions. Thanks for the report on the roads, and I see the road on, I believe you got the streets on there. I've been advocating for that road for probably 7 or 8 years now. Do we have a price tag attached to all of these roads and what it's gonna cost to get them taken care of? That's my first question, if anybody can answer that.
Just give 1 second, we'll get the answer. Somebody speak to that?
Just need a number, a price tag, what's it gonna cost to fix these roads on the list?
For all of the roads or specifically that?
These roads listed in this package.
She's referring to the presentation that we haven't got through yet. We do have, there is a master plan that has class, I don't know if it's D or what have you, estimates that have a high level of what it would cost.
Okay, my second question is, the $245 million that was supposed to be updated on the Dundee settlement monies with the trust fund. Was supposed to be on September's agenda, and they said it was gonna be moved to October's agenda. I don't see it on this month's agenda. Do we know what that community consultation of 75 people will be presented?
Any members have a response to that? Chief Edward was leading that work as well.
Yeah, I just got an email today, earlier today on from the lawyers, Cheryl. And so we're on the technical setting a date meeting.
Wait, Marlon's not in here. Go ahead, use it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the technical team is setting a date within the next several weeks to get back together to finalize a few other items that we got back from the lawyer. So that should be coming soon. Hopefully, if not the next general meeting, it'll definitely be latest the first one after the holiday.
Thank you. My last question is, when this meeting in St. Regis with the road, the right of way, do we have any progress or update reports on that? It's been well over a year now. I remember when I brought it up, supposed to receive some type of, update within a month or two, and, I haven't heard nothing in a year.
We are looking at alternate plans for the roadway. So it's not resolved. No. Okay.
Thank you.
Other items? Yes, up here in the front.
I was just curious
Yeah,
about,
choose that if you don't mind.
I was just curious about, the government was just reading about your J treaty, you guys got approved, so whatever. And, about the Derek White thing and, basically with this court case siding with the tobacco. So what does that mean for us, and what does that mean for local business people, entrepreneurs who been in tobacco and have been, fined, jailed, all of those things? What do we do for what class action lawsuit, all the people from Quebec, all the other reserves and us come together, and like, what's the plan, what's that mean for us, does anybody have any idea? Like, gross, just curious, it's so new, everybody, such a monumental, they're saying now that J treaty is in fact, this is precedent, so I'm just curious, we live in a border town, every day we have to go through CBSA and the hassles that brings upon each community member. I was even reading about, they're like, people who work for MCA having to go through and have issues for report, like delay, like that's ridiculous. So I'm just curious if what this does for us.
So just, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, so the decision's only from yesterday, so it's, it's very, very, very new. One of the legal counsel for Mr. White is our legal counsel as well, so we'll be definitely having a conversation with him on the implications of that. I think it is a good ruling. It essentially says that the Silver Covenant chain is a fundamental document that the government needs to consider upon relationship building with communities, specifically ours, because it's a Haudenosaunee. The Silver Covenant chain is specific to the Haudenosaunee, and basically what the law says, what the case says, is that the government of Canada did not consult adequately when implementing the excise tax of 2001, and recognizing that our communities have a long history on tobacco. So it's definitely something we'll be diving into in the next several months. We'll have to see though, where this goes on appeal. This is pretty big, so I would anticipate that unfortunately the government will appeal it, but nonetheless, it's a victory for our people.
I understand, like, they need to be educated as well about our travelings, like even myself, like going through on waterways, we're having issues, just, even people who are, I had a guy who was bringing out, selling top oil and bringing out spot equipment, and he was ticketed $2,200 for a bunch of stuff, and did eventually get thrown out in your guys' court, but it was a simple fact of being harassed and being, by our own local police and being, intimidated, or excuse me, them trying to intimidate people. This is our, since when is it a crime to go on our own territory from one island to another island?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good question of what that means for our own police force here and how they apply certain laws, i.e. the excise or what have you, but we'll definitely bring that to, in the discussions we'll be having.
Absolutely,
thank you. Right behind Cheryl.
I see on your agenda, you have the CBSA appointment. I'm just wondering, for the next general meeting, can we have a presentation from our Aboriginal Rights and Research Office? We haven't had any updates on any of the land claims, and since we're talking about CBSA, the North Shore Plain, and why they're spending all their money and doing everything in this area, I'd like a update from, is that still under Government Secretary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, it was raised earlier about asking about some of the claims and what's the status are, so we definitely could put that on there. The other big one that we're going to be having more conversations with our legal counsel about is the New York claim. So the New York claim is moving towards settlement, and so we need to, as council, determine what our steps will be, because we are a party to that, as well as the Mohawk tribe and the Mohawk Nation. So there will be some point in the near future that council will have to decide how we either move to ratification or accept or disapprove of that settlement.
It'd be nice to get that update.
Yeah, we are. The North Shore, yes, definitely, we can do that. Go ahead.
Hi, I don't want to compare you to Mohawk Council, but I'm going to. They regularly send out press releases where every counselor is going to travel ahead of time. So this week, I know that they have counselors traveling to the National Climate Summit. They also have counselors traveling to the Space for Women Conference. I know from Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, who went to the Jane Treaty Border Alliance. Now, at any given time, I don't know where any of the counselors here are going. And I do know from one person I follow on Instagram where she can, because she'll post photos on there. But with all due respect, I'm not gonna follow everybody on Instagram or Facebook. Is there any way, and I know MCA puts out a ton of information. I know that. And but it just, I don't know where you're going.
It's definitely
And I think
something,
it's fair.
yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that we can take back and figure out how we can incorporate that incident. Yeah. Was there? Far over, go ahead.
That question on your working task group, I guess, committee. I had a conversation a few nights ago with one of the members. Now, I don't quite understand how, the task group is working on our laws, and they are the very ones, supposed to be enforcing it. We have a CEO who runs the elections and is on the task group. I consider that, it's just my opinion, I consider that a real conflict of interest. One of the other ones on the task group, works for council, and I believe that would be a conflict of interest as well. When complaints are filed, that complaint goes directly to the Director of Justice. Now, the Director of Justice is on the task, the working task group. Now, that's a conflict of interest for that person to be on there and filing a complaint. The complaint will go to the director. It just doesn't seem like it's fair for the community. This task group, I do know they worked hard and they went to all the districts. They got information, they got suggestions. I know because I went. I offered my opinions, and when all these recommendations, suggestions came back to council, that's the community input for council. I guess it comes to council now, you know, I could be wrong, of course. You pass an MCR and you add what you wanted to. I don't believe that was right, but it was done. I brought it up at the district meeting. I talked to one of the task group members, and that person agreed that she thought it was a conflict of interest to be sitting there. And so I said, well, get off it. You know, it's simple as that. It's the perception that the community looks at. And I'm a community member. I live on Cornwall Island, and I brought this up to that individual several times. Why are you still on there? You shouldn't be. And then I hear a complaint was filed. You know, it just amazes me that the same group files the complaint and signs this and hands it into the, like you say, Reggie, we know in the community what's going on before you, because there is nothing confidential. I've had your own council agree signing the MCR was wrong, but did it anyway. So I really don't understand why. If you think something is wrong, why are you doing it? You know, you come out and admit that it's wrong. I think these committees, task group, they need to be really looked at. Because that's what they're doing is not right. Maybe they're working hard and they like every district. And that's what they're supposed to do. But when the recommendation goes to council, then I know that you get your direction from council. Well, you know, just because a complaint went in on Reggie, that doesn't mean that that's a valid complaint. You know, there's what, 12 of you sitting up there, and 7 of you signed the MCR to add to that MCR with what the community didn't recommend. And once those 3 meetings, consultation meetings were done, those recommendations were done. That's what was supposed to be handed in and not added to. So, you know, I feel bad that it looks and it appears that Abram, you're the only one working up there. Don't you have chiefs over there that belong to different portfolios? You should be answering us when we have questions. A lot of people have questions on different topics. I know a lot of you sit on those different portfolios. How can you let Chief answer these questions? It's not just him to answer.
Thank you. Julie wants to respond to that, and then we have a question online. Shannon, is that on?
Seskehko, everyone. So I have been on the justice portfolio for many years now, since I've been on council. I've been part of the legislative part of the justice department. I've been at many of the meetings. I've seen a lot of the hard work that's been done. I agree with most of what the community member is saying. One of the things that I think needs to be said is that not everything is factual of what's going on out there. When the election law went out, it went out with, I forget how many because it's been so long, there's so many, but they went out with certain recommendations that were going to be changed within the law. That went out to each and everybody. It went out to 3 districts. It was the law and adequate procedure regulation was followed to a T. So there's nothing that wasn't followed. Is it enough? Maybe we realize now it's not. Did we write it? We didn't, but that's what we follow. It's the first time that we've taken a law from the beginning and put it through the process. Is there problems with it? Yes, there's problems with it. We realize that now. When it comes to the election law, we've said it time and time again, council wasn't involved. We had no community, we had no council members on that working task group. But we do have an obligation as this council to look at that law 3 times as it's written within the legislative procedural regs of passing the law or the amendment process. On the 3rd time when it came back to us, there was questions that were asked by this council, and I'm not going to point out anybody because once we make a decision, it's all of ours and it's this council's decision. There was questions that were asked that this council felt weren't answered to the point of being clear for the community and for the council. There was questions that were asked, and I don't know if it's because they just assumed that we were going to say, yes, it's great, let it go, because that's what we're supposed to do. But when you read certain parts of the law, it contradicted itself, and there was problems legally within the law. That's what this council looked at. That's what we brought in a lawyer to talk to us about it. We talked it over amongst ourselves, and yes, it was passed that we were going to send it back for the working task group to change it. We didn't change it ourselves. We sent it back and said, this needs to be changed. We wanted the one thing in there that was from the community, and it was brought up during the process that they had taken it out, the 3 consultations. It was brought up at, I believe they said it was the first one on Gawanoge, about the petitions.
Section 16.
Now, after we did that, I had asked, can we, when we went through this process, I said, can we have the working task group sit with us while we go through with legal, while we go through with, and find out these questions? And council decided, no, okay, then that's no, we're not gonna have them come in at that time, and that's fine. I think that's a decision of council. One of our main jobs on this council is to do legislation. That's something that we have given to the Justice Department to do on our behalf. Maybe it's something that this council needs to consider taking back and doing ourselves. Maybe it's something that we need to figure out how to do it better. There's obviously ruffled within the processes that we're using, because we had 2 laws that didn't pass, and those 2 laws that went through the same process. They followed it to a T. We did everything that was in the law enactment process. For those laws, we followed, and the community said no. What happens after the community says no? Somebody asked that. There's no law. We have regulations that control our cannabis shops. Those regulations will stay in place. We'll figure out what was wrong with the law, and we'll go back. The law was not to put up or to say yes or no to cannabis. Cannabis shops are here. That's a fact. And I think that was a miscommunication to the community, was that the law was to say yes or no. No, that ship's already sailed, and that was not what that law was for. That law was to help regulate the shops that were there. We had updates at these meetings. We had all of those things done. And so we do know from a council point of view that we have work to do to fix our processes and to try and do this. Now, the election law will be voted on next month with the one change of the petitions. And then there'll be a plan that'll have to be done after that on what will be the next process for that law. It's not the first time this law's come out. It's not the first time that we've had changes that we've wanted on it. And every time it's voted down no. So it's time for us all to take responsibility for the entire law, I think, and say what is it that we have to do in order to change it. Okay. Oh, excuse me. I think that's a slide that I need to stop my position. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question. We have a. We're gonna go to online. We have Toby, you have your hand up. Then we have Vincent online as well after her.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have a couple of questions and I guess maybe a comment. For the public safety chiefs, I did send you an email a few weeks back about loose dogs in Snaihne. Just wondering if I could maybe get a response from that email, and if there's any plans to look at a solution for that, because they are getting kind of dangerous for people who are walking by, and compliance has been made aware of it, and so has AMPS. But they say they are kind of out of options. So just looking for some kind of response on that. For the environment and health portfolio chiefs, I'm just wondering to what extent they've been involved in the various engagements for the water legislation and the health legislation. both federal initiatives, and just wondering, you know, if they've been involved and kind of what the perspectives for Akwesasne are on those. Also wondering, Grand Chief, what you have on record for anything for chiefs' conduct and the way they conduct themselves outside of the community. Just looking for a little bit of research on that. And my final question is just kind of with the upcoming AFN National Chiefs election and maybe my own curiosity, you know, what your council's kind of thoughts are on the candidates that have announced themselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. Is there a response on the loose dog? Is there something?
We did send out an email regarding your loose dogs. Christian Cody, and they'll send a response to you. When I get sent it.
Hello?
Can you hear me, Cody?
Abram, did you call upon?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're just responding to the last question.
Yeah, I could hear you.
So the loose dog issue that was sent on to Matt and the clients, and as far as I knew, they went down, but I didn't get another update from them on what the next steps are.
Okay, and the water legislation, anybody involved in that? Dwayne?
I've been to 2 of the consultations. And the first consultation they had, they didn't have the legislation yet. So we went there and talked about what it might look like when it comes out. And the second one was how do we improve what they had out? But it seemed like we were being consulted, but it didn't really matter what we said. They already had a plan to go forward. So we were trying to get them to bring that consultation process a little bit backwards and give us the opportunity to further comment and actually feel like we were being listened to and not just token Indian type thing where we're there to talk, but didn't mean anything. And I haven't seen anything since.
Right. Turn your mic off there. On your third question, outside the community is the same would be in the community is the ethical conduct law. And your fifth question, sorry, your fourth and fifth, your fifth question is the national chief. So we have been approached by a few, or I have, and a couple members have as well, by a few of the candidates looking for nominations. We haven't given any nominations. The nomination is closed now. The official list for the national chief has come out today. And so we will accept invitations from candidates to present to council to present themselves. So in sum, we don't have a candidate who we will be supporting at this time.
Thank you. You just skipped on the health legislation and also for the water and health legislation, like if there's any kind of community engagement being planned or, you know, just kind of, was it just trying to bring the process back or were there any kind of specific concerns for Akwesasne? I did hear you and thank you for your update, Chief Thomas.
Anything else on that health? No?
So with the health legislation, myself has attended a number of consultations with the chiefs of Ontario. We are attending along with the AFN session. I know there was a consultation, an update provided to the chiefs of Ontario. They are moving forward with regard to a resolution coming forward at the AFN Assembly again in a month. And after hearing the updates from the federal government and the lack of consultation or positive consultations that they've received, they are considering to pause the process. We are in discussion with our health director in regards to this legislation also. Thank you.
Thank you. Vincent, never go to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I'm at I'm out of town into the town of Messina. So I'm calling by Zoom. I had a couple questions. Some of them have been covered already by some of the people that are at the Snaihne school. But I want to start off with, I have several questions and maybe more statements than questions. One of the questions I had was, why was the October general meeting moved to tonight?
Essentially was availability of members of council.
Oh, what members of council weren't available for last Thursday night?
Me, and it was not by my request. Council was more comfortable that I'd be here.
In the past, I don't know if it's happened during your since you've been on council. In the past, especially since you've been on council, have there been general meetings where other district chiefs have filled in as the chairperson for those general meetings?
Yes, there have been. It's not by my choice that I run these things, but definitely as the chairperson, people feel more comfortable that I do. But there have been in the past, where members have chaired the meeting.
Yeah, I think since you've said that right now, I think the fact that you put your name in for Grand Chief, it is your choice to be the chairperson, because that's one of the roles of the Grand Chief, is to be the chairperson of the general meetings, special meetings, things like that. So you might not enjoy it, but you have chosen to do that, in fact, through your keeping your name in for Grand Chief.
I don't shy away from it. I don't shy away from it. So
no,
it is
but at the same time, you can't say it's not your choice. That's just one statement. And in the future, are district chiefs going to never chair the general meeting again?
So I make best efforts that I'm available to chair the general meetings, because that is my role. But if it is the fact that I'm not available, then yes, there will be a member of council that can.
I just want to know why they did it for this meeting. Why they didn't for last Thursday's meeting.
Well, I think in all fairness, the meetings have been very highly sensitive and emotional and charged to, some of the negative and some of the positive. And so they felt that the chairperson, the Grand Chief, should be the one running the meeting. And I don't have a problem with that.
Is there any way, Grand Chief, that if we're going to plan a general meeting and we put it out in the schedule, that unless, let's say, there's some kind of very important emergency in your family or yourself, that all the other meetings would take second place to the general meetings, so that once it's out there for people to participate in a certain date or whatever, that we know, and unless somebody's ill or their family member is very ill, even the district chiefs would make every effort to be there. If again, they're sick or have COVID or something, yes, stay home, come on by Zoom or whatever. But I think, this is my opinion, for different reasons, we've had to change the date of the different meetings. I'm finding that sometimes a monthly meeting is actually being held in the following month on a few occasions. But I'm just saying the Grand Chief should be at the meetings when they're scheduled to be there, unless there is some kind of dire emergency. Being at another AFN meeting or some other meeting is super important, but being at your community's general meeting is priority, I believe. That's my statement. and you're gonna do whatever you want to, but I hope you take that into consideration.
I think.
And that might be pardon me?
No, I thank you for that, and the record, generally that I'm here to chair those meetings when they're supposed to happen, so, I mean, other members have heard what you have to say and can acknowledge that.
Yeah, and I think that if in fact, and I was going to, my first question was, do you guys work as a team? And and I would have probably guessed that had I talked to everybody, asked everybody their opinion on it individually, they would have probably all said yes. Or I hope they would have said something close to yes. And if in fact you're a team, then when somebody's out on an important mission for the community, then somebody else would step in on that. That's just my opinion again to the chiefs and to you as well. Number two, the resolution that people have been discussing this evening, what resolution is that? Is it the resolution of September 18th, where apparently 7 chiefs signed onto it? Is that the one you're talking about, or was it discussed earlier?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Okay. Now, my understanding is there's a subsequent resolution, and that resolution had 11 signatures from district chiefs. Can you tell us a little bit about that second resolution and what that was for?
So I believe we're talking about the same issue. So subsequent to the last general meeting, and there was a resolution that was brought forward to council to rescind the resolution that
of September 18th.
Yes, and that was subsequently defeated. So it's
what
by
was
virtue.
The vote? What was
I'm
the
sorry,
vote on
I don't know offhand.
Do any of the other chiefs know?
Well, there definitely was enough to say that it's enough to agree to it, or enough to, it was denied. So there was more than half were against it.
So
we'll have to undertake to tell you the exact number. We don't have it offhand.
My understanding, it was 11 to 5. No, 6 to 5. And from the 6 people who voted not to rescind that resolution, can they identify themselves by their names to me? Because I can't see the video. And to the rest of the people that are at this general meeting.
We don't have the resolution in front of us, so I can't say.
Dwayne Thomas, how did you vote on that resolution?
I voted not to rescind.
Not to rescind. Dooley?
Who was that?
Dooley?
I was absent from that meeting, attending a meeting.
Okay. What about the April Phillips?
She said no.
She voted not to rescind it?
Yes, that's what she said.
Okay. What about Mrs. Dybel?
If I may interrupt you for a second. A second ago, you asked us if we work as a team. And one of the problems I have with this question you're asking us now is, now you're asking us to identify individually what our choice was. In my point of view, that MCR was passed, and that's all the information that's needed.
No, that is not all the information that's needed. I think as a form of accountability and as a form of a transparency that I've heard throughout the night and throughout different speeches that you've given, Julie, that and comments that you've made, I think everybody in Akwesasne needs to know how you're voting on different issues, okay? So that we can make a clear and And we can make a clear and informed decision how we vote for people on the next time there's a voting in potentially in next June or July. And so I think that's really important that the community knows that. And did you want to add something to that?
No, I don't think that there's any benefit to going back and forth on whether they should not. What we can undertake is to bring the resolution so that members of the community can see how members of council have voted to show.
Perfect.
Because we can undertake that. We're not going to go down the table and identify that. And I think that, you know, in governance and good governance is the decision is made by council, and that is the decision that's executed. And if we step back for a second and think about,
that's fine.
The decision that was made, and a subsequent decision has been made again, which was endorsed by council, majority of council, in fact, I think probably all of them, that document will go to referendum on December 9th. So the wheels are continuing to move forward. And if members, you know, of community are upset with process or what have you, I mean, the vote will be held, the referendum will be held on to accept or reject the law at this point. I think that there's
now hearing you. Sorry.
No,
tell me when you're done.
No, go ahead.
So you just said if we're upset about process, you'll handle it then, basically is what I'm hearing. And but at the same time, you said that it was, people are saying, and Julie, I think, said that it was handled through the process that was laid out. What is, and I think this question really was asked a little while ago by somebody else. I think the first person who spoke, the first man who spoke, what is going to be in the what is the question on the referendum as far as what are we looking at? Are we looking at those items that the working task group had told people to, like how many chiefs we want and stuff like that, and the point about how to remove a chief via a petition, or is that election law only going to have the how to remove a chief by petition? What did it include? What's the main points of that election law? What's the main points? What's the main changes in that election law when we go to the polls to vote?
So I don't have the question that will be on the ballot, but essentially what I will say is, do you accept the proposed amendments to the Akwesasne election law? And those proposed amendments are changes to section 16 around petitions, and then some minor changes around grammatical errors, and that is it. Essentially, it'll be a question.
Including the results and the recommendations of the task group, correct?
I'm sorry, you're getting scrambled. I can't understand your question.
Yeah, you're excluding those recommendations of the working task group.
Essentially, so under the regulations, council has the ability to accept or reject recommendations made by the working task group, and council has done that.
And where's the consultation to?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. We can't make out what you're saying. Okay, we're gonna go to in the back. Yeah, over here, Jen. Yeah.
Just a couple questions. You stated that it would bring the resolutions that were, so we could see how the chiefs have voted. Let you know, for transparency, I based my vote coming in June on how these sitting chiefs voted.
So that's why it's so important for the community to see who voted where, for what, and voted against what. Because it's important for the community to see how their sitting representatives are supposed to be representing them. And that was a council failure by allowing that to happen. You failed at this. So the regulation for that, yes, I understand it goes back to council. Then put a number on how many is supposed to go through before you get to that point. If you don't do that, then you accept what the community is saying. We gave our district chief that direction in our district meeting prior to that day, that vote you had. And she voted the way her opinion is, not the way the community that has 13 people in there that all wanted it to go that way. We wanted it to move forward because those 13 people that were in our meeting were the ones that showed up, took the time out to show up for that meeting. And those referendums that you had for the Seaway, for the 2 laws, that's a council failure. That means somebody's not doing their job in this community. That should have been more presented, more information should have been pumped out to the community to make sure everybody's questions were answered before we got to that point. That's a total failure. You shouldn't be happy about what's happening here, guys. You really, it's disappointing to see that this is happening nowadays. Next comment, your strategic plan. When is it going to be shared with the community? I asked this 3 years ago, I asked this 2 years ago, and I asked this last year. Council took the time out to lay out a priority list and to see how it's going to be worked on. I would like to see a presentation to the whole community on what the strategic plan looks like and who's going to do what to implement it. We're not getting that. I want to see some political action out of this council, not administrative actions. We need to start waking up in this community or we're never going to get anywhere. We need you guys to be representing us, not in Akwesasne, out there in Ottawa, and Toronto, and every province of this country. We need to represent Akwesasne, not sitting around here doing whatever you're doing. It's not working. We're not getting anywhere with anything. Because I'd like to see how lobbying dollars are going. Where's it going? Who's lobbying what? That's why community members are asking, what are you doing? Where are you going? Who's traveling where? What's being done? Those questions are natural questions for a council to answer to the community. You want transparency? That's transparency. Now.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation and your discussion and your ideas and everything that we've asked of you. I thank you very much. I've heard, We've all attended a law 101 on legislation and everything about all the laws that have passed and why they should be passed, and why they shouldn't be passed. I've heard about transparency and no transparency, but I don't hear anything positive coming out of you guys. Like you all sit there and look at every one of you. And not one, maybe 1 or 2 have spoken, 3 or 4, but not all of you. We go to district meetings, we ask our district chiefs questions. And we bring up a lot of issues. But none of the issues that we've asked have come forward to say, I'll follow up with a district meeting in Snaihne. This is what was brought up, this is what we found out at the general meeting, so that the community of Akwesasne knows the issues of Snaihne. Or the community of St. Regis know, you need to know what your issues are. Maybe we have the same issues, maybe we don't. We all have issues with roads. We have issues with health. We have issues with housing. And we have issues with social. And I want to say, I commend you on such a wonderful program on ACFS. They've done a wonderful program protecting our children and getting all that money for our children. But there's one thing that you guys failed at. And I want you to remember this. You failed. You failed to remember that those children, they grow up every day, they get older. And as every day they get older, they become adults. And as adults, those children have issues.
We don't have a social worker. We don't have a social program for our elderly. We don't have a social program for the elders or for the young people or for the old people or the middle-aged. We don't. But boy, we got a darn good program for ACFS. We can give away millions, but we don't have nothing for the adults that care for these children. And we want so hard to make sure that our children are bathed, clothed, fed, have the best education ever. But we don't have a program for the struggling adults, young, old grandparents. We don't have that. But I hear a whole hell of a lot about cannabis. I hear a whole hell of a lot about roads and everything. What about our elderly? What about the middle-aged people? What about their social issues? What about the sickness, the mental health? What about that? I hear everything, transparency, everything, but I don't hear about the real bread and butter and the real ground roots. The ground roots is, listen, every one of us in this room have an issue with our health, our children, our grandchildren, the addictions. We don't even have mental health. We have no mental health. None whatsoever. Yeah, we have one where I have two. We have one or two to what, 2,000 people? We have young teenagers growing up in high school. Do we have anybody in there that's educating or growing our kids to go into health? Zero, which means not one, but zero. None whatsoever. We have kids that go to CBSA, St. Joe's, Salmon, and Messina, and anywhere else. We have anybody growing those young kids to take care of us? No, we don't. What do we hear? We're struggling with PSWs, we're struggling with nurses, we're struggling with counselors, we're struggling with social workers. We're struggling with the ground roots people that hit the ground running and getting burned out. But do we have anybody? We hear a whole bunch of things about law, we hear a whole bunch of things about legislation and everything else that goes with it. But we don't talk about our own, talk about us. Who's caring for us? There's a lot of mourning going on in this community. And people don't get over mourning just like that. It takes years, if it ever. And what do? They turn to the one thing that makes them feel good. And what happens with that? We hire 50 police officers to stop that. 50. Millions and millions of dollars. We argue in meetings about where the police department's gonna be housed. We don't even have room for you guys, our leadership. They're all over the place. We don't know. You don't even have a building. You don't even have a nice office. But son of a gun, let's get those police officers in a nice location. Let's spend millions of dollars. Let's get them going. But we forget about the kids. We forget about the young adults. And we're banging our heads against that wall. We just patted the wall. It won't hurt as much. But you know what? It's so true. We sit at that district meeting month after month after month. If that one issue came up in January, darn right, it's gonna come up in June again. It's gonna be hit. We're gonna be hitting again, hitting again, hitting again. Then when you get your new council, and how many weeks do you guys have to go through orientation? Let's say 12 weeks, 3 months, no work, get an orientation. Well, if you've been on council for 12 years, you don't need orientation. Been there, done that, get to work. You've been on orientation for 5 years, been there, done that, get to work. You don't need to go to orientation. Only the ones that haven't been on council need to get orientation and need to know, you know what? There's a train, there's a plane, and there's a car. Get in it and go and find that money. As I was told by another employee, there's a whole hell of a lot of money in Quebec that nobody's tapping into. A lot of money. Lots of money. They said, you want it, Joe? Go get it. My boss said, that's not your job. That's a politician's job. I said, well, you know what? Who's on health? They've been on there long enough. They should know there's money over there. If not only in health, in roads. So come on. Think about everybody else and not just the justices. And the justice. And the transparency. And what you did wrong, what you did right. Because we haven't heard what you did right, but boy, oh boy, we heard what you did wrong. And it wasn't nice. But what did you do right? It took us this far. Take us a little farther. Please get somebody in for mental health and also for counseling and a social worker, not just for the children. But what about the struggling, the abusive adults in the community? What about them? They're as vulnerable as the kids that go to pre-K, kindergarten, and grade 6 here. They're as vulnerable as them, especially when they have dementia. I believe in my heart, dementia comes from unresolved grieving. I've seen it in my own family. Unresolved grieving, what do? You repeat, you repeat, you repeat. You never get over that grieving. There was a grieving session at the Snaihne recreation once, never happened again. We all got cured, but it's not true. Grieving is forever. It only lessens as the days go on. That's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you. Over here, then back over here, then we're gonna move to the presentation.
Well, she kind of hit on what my question is, so I've been coming to these meetings for quite a few years, and the dynamics of you guys sitting up there changed to a lot of us having to come into a meeting and sit here and try to read and scramble through reports to see what you have accomplished. My question to each and every one of you tonight is, I would like to know from you guys, and let's turn this around and try to find some positivity. What have you done in the community over the few months or accomplished that will benefit the community? So you have been on long enough to be able to say what you've done that will benefit this community. And if you can't get it done in the past 6 months, do you see yourselves getting it done before your term is over? You all went out and campaigned on certain agendas, items, things like that. So let's hear something positive from each and one of you tonight. I find it disappointing that you don't report at least once a month on 1 or 2 items that you have accomplished. And then, are we having a meeting in December?
Date hasn't been set yet.
But you're looking that we will because of the holidays?
It's undecided yet, only because there's lots of things going on right now, and December is very busy. We are hosting community dinners and all this other stuff, but it's not announced yet.
So the 245 million odds are it might not be presented until January from the Dundee community consultation results.
I don't know, but I think that as we get closer to the holidays, people start thinking about that instead of that. And I think that, personally, I think January is the best time to start talking about that as we get through the holiday hump. But
so can we start this end and I'd like to ask the chiefs what they've accomplished to benefit the community.
Sure.
If you can just tell me one little thing.
You need to turn that on.
Oh, you can hear me, right?
They can't online.
You hear me? You hear me? I haven't really accomplished anything, but I do, I've helped a lot of the community members that needed help. In that way, we just started working on our capital projects for our fire station and the roads and stuff, and that's what we're gearing up to do, to help in some way, look for monies have to be looked for. That's about my biggest project, other than the small committees I sit on. We're just working on amendments to the different policies.
Well, I've only been sitting here for a few short months, but recently, we actually, I advocated for special needs and to get that program, the committee going together and see what we can do. We have a lot of special needs children, a lot of special needs adults, young adults in our community, and I want to get that going so that we can, help them. We have a lot of
young adults who are transitioning into adulthood and just need a little boost to get there. And I think it would be great if we had those types of programs to assist them. And also, I'm very big on helping, like, wanting to see something where we can have parent groups and have other parents of special needs children get together and talk about their issues, because unless you're in that situation, nobody understands what it's like. So it would be nice to have that. I've also not a huge thing, but also just recently trying to look at the situation with the overwhelming population of, you know, animals, specifically in Syracuse. I'm sure they're all over. We have a huge cat issue in the village. And I am have a meeting next week with somebody, so we can try to see where we can go for that. I mean, I've only been here a very short time, but I've been participating in all the meetings. I've been getting to know everyone and trying to learn as much as possible.
Thank you.
Good evening. One of the things when I had came on council was to the COVID fatigue, the effects that we all have as trauma, whether it's what John said, the grief process. COVID did a number on us, mentally, spiritually, and our well-being. So one of the things that I had, when I first came on in December, I talked about that we need to start to look at the mental health of the organization, the mental health of each other, respect. And so I teamed up with Chief Dwayne and we started to talk about mental health and unifying to thrive in us. And there's a lot of barriers, I guess, we need to overcome with each other, both councils. So this week we're going to be doing a mental health, a 2-day mental health session with the Tribe and Mohawk Council. So that's one good thing that I see, was just coming from emergency management, just the effects of whether it be the Indian Day Residential School, the application, or COVID fatigue. So this all comes back on our whole, how we treat each other and the dynamics in our community. So I think if we can start off on council, how we respect and treat each other, and can funnel down to the community. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So good evening, everyone. So Cheryl asked, what did we accomplish? I think in Kentenhkó we have a lot of issues that have been in the forefront: our roads, our speed bumps, our traffic lights, our cameras, our policing. I've been on them like a, I don't know what I should say. They know that. I've been constantly working with them. I'm thankful that roads stepped up and that we're able to get the speed bumps, not speed bumps, but
Rumble strips.
rumble strips. I know that's not what the community is asking for right now, but given the situation with our roads, I think that it's a step forward. I know there's been a lot of issues with them, but we're going to try and work through that. We still have a ways to go to get some folks and get things moving. But I think for the overall safety of the communities is what I've been working on, especially in Kentenhkó. I've gone out and I've gone home to them. I've spoken to community members. We talked a bit about these laws. I dropped laws off at community people's their homes and asked them their questions. So it was pretty quiet in Kentenhkó for doing it. And I think my biggest accomplishment that I want to say this week, I had a struggle with a family member, but I stepped up and I helped another community member who was asking for help. And they said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know that." And I said, "That's okay. I'll do what I can to help you." I gotta thank you for that. So I was really proud of that. You know.
Jackie.
I'm gonna say, well, I attend the Airport Office hunting and harvesting working group sessions, which is mostly men, but I go anyway because we talk about our rights for hunting in different areas, harvesting, fishing, whatever, and we talk about sometimes there's court cases because our people go hunting somewhere and they get. If they're things seized, their vehicles, we're working on a list of lawyers that will take on some of these court cases. And we're working on doing a summit for hunters and harvesters. And one that will start in one community and move this way, so we can have one here too at some point. The other thing is, on the, DIHE, Department of Infrastructure, Housing and Environment, and we managed to push the amount for new construction loans up from where it was. It's been at 150,000 for years and years, and yet the costs keep going up, so we are pushing that up.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody again. So one of the things that, well, not one of the things, but one of the things that I'm pretty proud of is the presentation we had tonight that I'm not real sure we're gonna get to, but, and that's the BCI, the Border, Collaboration Initiative. And the reason I say I'm proud of it is because we take a lot of the hard issues, the stories from the community, the complaints, and we take it to the tables, and we take it to the people that need to hear the issues that are happening. And a lot of times they're not the front line, so it's, you know, it's getting through to the top level and getting it to come down, which is what we're working on now. The other thing is, I'm proud that when a community member calls me and needs help, I answer that call and I do what I can. I was able to, through the help of, and I know not all programs appreciate it, but I have, called on behalf of community members within all 3 districts to say, we need to find a way to help these individuals. What can we do with, and a lot of times, they'll say, well, it's not in our policy. What needs to change within your policy so that we can help individuals? And I think that's a real important question to ask. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I just want to start by saying the things that we've accomplished. A lot of these things that I'm going to talk about are just things that we've worked on as teams. So it wasn't just me. So I'm gonna say that right from the start. Like the things that I've enjoyed working on. I participate in the ADJOURNMENT Border Alliance, which I think is very important for inherent rights to be recognized when we cross that border, whether we're going south or whether we're coming north, because we all have that inherent right to cross that border, and that goes right across Canada. So it's important to me because if your youth or your grandchildren attend university out in Washington State and they have to go to BC, I don't want to have to get a call because of the time difference. They should be able to cross that border freely. So that's one of the things that I champion. So I sit on a national table for that, which is the Border Experiences, and I co-chair that with Cynthia Pye, who is a representative from CBSA. So what I do is I take our local information, our local stories. I've received complaints from community members, one as long as 6 pages. We have community members who are careful to cross that border, and it's right here in our backyard. So I think that is very disturbing. So I bring those stories forward. So when I presented just when I was in Calgary, and that was the one on my Instagram story. I posted a couple pictures because I was at the J3 Border Alliance in Calgary. So when I presented there, it was an update for this committee to Minister Miller, Minister Hernandez and the president of CBSA, as well as leadership from all of the J3 Border Alliance communities that were able to attend. So what I'm bringing there is the stories and the information that happened here in the community. Other things that I worked on, along with other chiefs sitting here at the table, are homelessness. We worked on that. We tried the care center in Cornwall, and of course, unfortunately, we ran into a lot of snags without the state of Cornwall. But that's not finished yet. We also worked on this special needs, and that goes back to my first term when I didn't have orientation. I had none. So I came on and I thought, I didn't think it was a big deal until I sat down and did the orientation. Things change. So there is things that you need to update on. So some of it is needed and required of us. Other things I do, public safety.
public safety is a big one. You know, pushing for the community watch program that's yet to start completely, which is a community driven initiative. So it's not just me, it's everybody that has to be responsible for our community safety in that aspect. Special needs strategies, I go back to first term, you know, we've sat community members, myself and a couple of former chiefs as well as chiefs that are sitting here. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there because we were excited to get to the customs presentation there tonight too as well, and you know, there was a lot of hard work put into that presentation, so thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. For myself, I was part of a great team over the years, working on many files. Over the past year, I took time to take care of myself. And I can honestly say tonight, diabetes stage 3 cancer. I want to thank everyone for their support throughout the past year for me to get healthy, picking up my files, picking up my portfolios where I was chairing. I'm slowly getting back into that process, and I will continue to the end of our term. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So these last few years, there was major issues happening on the way to Brownsville for many, many years. Pushing that initiative and telling I see that given the funding for that, not just me, but our portfolio. Also working on Hawthorne Road as well. To begin. Also, last term we obtained the big summary, and we all know we wanted some that. And so finally, we're getting moving on that day, so we will have some kind of administration. And we do have, we are looking at some drop-in offices for our administration. Also, we look forward to post and health justice and TR Leisure in the building. They're looking at the design phase of that right now. That's going out to tender soon. And we're hoping to have that building in as soon as we can and prep for hopefully a year and a half to 2 years. For the housing new developments, prior to being on housing a few years back, addressing the need of handicap accessibility. So when these buildings came in, the housing done, and we ensure that everyone's handicap accessible apartments in those buildings. Also, in the past, back in 2019, or I want to say 2017, initiative came across the table called Dreams Take Flight, which is a planned trip to Disney with our youth. And that was me and another chief on council prior, which was we moved that initiative forward. And we worked with Ron Work out in Kentenhkó, and he helped coordinate a event with us to send our kids from Akwesasne and I want to say by the neighborhood on Kentenhkó, it's other areas to send them this year 24-hour trip of life. And those that don't have the accessibility, that probably they don't have the affordability, or they need doctors and nurses and caregivers to provide them with help on board. Also, they're working with the BCI. We're going to have a presentation on that. And, you know, we all like to see remission order for us. So everyone deserves a right to pass freely without any hesitation or burdens. I'll leave it out.
Thank you.
April, I get 2 minutes.
Yes.
So for myself, I spent the last year really focused on health and mental health in our community. So I just want to talk about a couple of things. One of them, I bring in $3.4 million for $3 million was for health, mental health, land-based healing, and a debriefing team here in Akwesasne. The other $400,000 was for patient navigators at Kentenhkó Community Hospital and at the Akwesasne building for people who needed help navigating through the health system, specifically to Akwesasne. So not just Akwesasne or Kentenhkó Community Health, but anywhere you needed to go. We met with Quebec Health, the Montérégie region of Quebec Health in August. With them, we're working on, and one of the things I hope to complete is patient navigators on this side. So if you want to go to Ormstown or Martin, they want to put English speaking patient navigators specific. For people. So not just us, but Benelux is working on it, and so it's gonna start it. I don't think anybody in our health program had met with the Montérégie since prior to COVID. So that's something we worked on there. We're having further discussion with Quebec Health to get some of those fundings that you were talking about. The second part was partnerships. So we have had some conversations with Martin University, but one that we're a little bit further along, and this would satisfy you, I believe, is Queen's University in Kingston. We're working on a three-pronged effect for Queen's University. One of them being the recruitment of students to go to Queen's. They have a program called Forms, which is specific to Native and Black doctors, our pre-medical students. And so they would go 2 years in their regular program, and if they qualify, they go right into medical school, and they finish after 6 years instead of 8. So the recruitment of those students from Akwesasne is one prong. The second prong is clinical health. So get people here to help, and they also have people there, lobbyists who can help with the licensing issue. If you're licensed in Ontario, you can't practice in Snaihne or St. Regis, or if you're licensed in Quebec, you can't go to the island. There's a number of chiefs working on that as well. Queens has something that they want to help us with. And the third part of Queens is the Kingston Cancer Center. So they want to work between the Kingston Cancer Center and Ottawa Hospital to accept QPIC. So we can get pre-screening, early detection is really what we need. Early detection is huge in our community, and as most of you know, I've lost my best friend in the last 2 months, and he was a big advocate of early detection. And I told him that I would push this and continue on with this fight. So with Queen's University, that's something we're working on between the Department of Health, myself, and Queen's University. So, thank you.
Thank you. Edward, we're gonna go to online.
Yeah, so looking at successes, it's gonna be more from a team effort going from last council to the current one, where we have the broadband project that flowed into the Rogers Tower that's scheduled to be set up in just Snaihne. Along with that, there's a lot of continued political advocacy with the external organizations such as Independent First Nations, where we see funding that flows into programs like such as the DCSS is one program that I'm aware of, and education is another. And so it's at those tables where discussions are had with assistant deputy ministers and the advocacy, what we do, and in negotiating with them reasonings as to why sometimes the funding that the province or the feds give is simply not enough to bring back to the community, because our community continues to grow. But then when we look at every year when there's funding coming through, the funding sometimes never changes. So there's also areas where we have to discuss with them their methodologies for funding are not always efficient for our community. The nation building, continued negotiations on that. It is a lengthy process, and I truly understand one of the main reasons for it is the fact that Akwesasne, we look through a different lens than Canada. And that is where we get a lot of delays, is we take in the position where we don't want Canada to have us look through their perspective. It's our side of the table, getting them to see our perspective because of who we represent, which is all of you, the people of our community. Because once this document becomes finalized to the point where we get to the community to discuss it and have consultation, we want to ensure that everything in there is for the best benefit of our people and not what Canada thinks is best for us. So those are a few things that I just wanted to share in regards to that, and we will continue that. But I'd also like to really give commendment as well to all of our directors of our programs, because it's what we do, we bring back to them the tools that they utilize to serve the community. And so it's not just one chief or two, it's all a council with Grand Chief, it's all of our directors, it's all of the frontline workers too, who I have to commend as well. So I just wanted to end on that note.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council. Now, wasn't it nice to hear a nice little update from everybody and hear a little bit of positivity instead of everybody thinking they like to bash everybody? Everybody in this community always talks about lifting each other up and whatnot, but yeah, we're all sitting in here bashing and trashing. Let's present solutions to council. And let's see if they can act on those solutions. So thank you very much, because public perception is what's hurting us right now. Is the public perception is so negative about you that if we hear from you, even if it's 2 minutes, that public perception will begin to change to say, I didn't know you were working on a 3-pronged approach. It's nice to hear what you said about the cancer, the doctors, and promoting. Because I sit at home saying, how come I don't have any kids going to school for nursing? How come I don't have any kids going to school to be this, to be that, whatever, right? So just those little tiny updates, even if it wasn't a new accomplishment, you spoke back to the community and gave us a very nice update to what you guys are busy with. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're gonna go to Paula, and then we have one online, and we're gonna move to the presentations.
Thank you for that. I've read Abrams' weekly reports that he posts on his Facebook page. And out of that, there's quite a long list of questions I have and comments to be made. Which I don't think I'm gonna do, because we haven't had a meeting since June, and I didn't make the September general meeting, and I couldn't hear it well on Zoom. The first thing I wanted to try and see and get clarification is from that property acquisition team back in July, end of July, there was a potential sale of land in Ontario. And then I think it was the October 16th meeting, there was a site visit. Was that the same property that you went and looked at?
Yes.
And I don't get back over the last couple of months, several council members have said that before you do any kind of purchase, you look at forecasting, what would it be intended for, what would be the potential use, what we need to do with it. Is there information to be shared about at this point in time, or where that site is and what answers to those questions?
So the two programs that we have, the two programs that we have approached in relation to that property is environment and land-based healing, and as well as the justice program for not restorative justice, but when people come out of incarceration. Those are the three programs that we've could have brought to that property.
So is that something where structures are already in place on the property?
No, if there is to be a purchase, it would be just purely for the use of it's a bush, it's a bush. Yes, yeah, there would be immediately no building of anything.
There was also in one of your reports, Abram, where there is a possibility of establishing a partnership with the city of Cornwall on housing.
Mhm.
That was back in the end of August, and then early September. There was also another situation where possibly DCSS entering into an MOU, or is that the same?
Yes,
That we're not going to look at?
no,
There was, back in August, also a discussion at council table about financial literacy day for the community. Has there been any further information on that?
no, and essentially what that is we want to bring all the financial partners that we have, that we deal with, to the community to talk about various elements of financial literacy, whether it be, personal finances, investments, what they do. We just haven't actioned on that yet, but we're hoping for January or February after Christmas when people feel the crunch financially.
In your August 28th report as well, you had mentioned the community watch program, and then September 18th, the community safety plan. Are those the same? Are they the same thing? And
Can you speak
are
to
they they're different?
So the community watch program, that was, a previous council member had started working with that with Nance. So that was starting to move forward. And, the community safety planning is with the EOC, which is, one of our staff there, emergency management officer, I believe. I mean, that is a community safety plan where they've brought in different, agencies, we've had different programs participate, and it's an overall community safety, which is not like an enforcement minded type, it's in the development, and they're hoping to bring it to community, to get input on their own. So I believe there's been 2 sessions so far, and I attended both. 3, I didn't attend the first one.
Are there going to be more presentations?
Yes, absolutely.
The other one was October 23rd, which was recent. There was mention about a multi-use emergency center and applying for funds for a feasibility study. Can you elaborate on what that would be?
Yeah, essentially what the government of Canada through Indigenous Services Canada has approached us and asked us if we would be willing to examine the building of a evacuation center that could be used for other purposes. So what happens, like in the north, when the fires or floods, they used to evacuate to Cornwall to the NAVCAN center, but NAVCAN is no longer an option. Plus, they have found that by putting, people in the north or First Nations people in non-Indigenous settings, there's a lot of repercussions from that. So the philosophy is that we would just run a center to support evacuees, and it'd be multi-use because those situations would only happen. We'd hope they never happen, but they only happen a couple of times a year. So they've approached us to see if we would be interested in doing something like that.
And your response was?
Well, I mean, obviously the feasibility is to look at, like what it could be, what it's going to cost, where the location, things like that. It's very, very preliminary.
I think you'd also reported, I believe just Monday, concern or question about doctor availability after December 1st.
Mm-hmm. There's one of our physicians that a member of council understood that they, after December 1st, wouldn't be able to practice in Quebec anymore. So they're going to seek clarity on that. And that's a language issue.
But we have an additional doctor on Farm Island, right?
Yes, yeah. It's specific to one doctor. Yes.
So I did ask that question to. I did direct that question to our director of health, and it's not an issue. Her license is good, and they are working through the process with McGill University.
Thank you. April, what is historical land use agreement?
There was a situation where the MCA used to lease some land and doesn't anymore. So council received a briefing on what that lease arrangement used to be.
It no longer exists.
It's no longer used.
Okay. The strategic plan that's being implemented, or you're looking at implementation of it, is that with A to Z?
Yes. Yeah, it's purely administrative, like the administration developing the implementation plan.
Do you have a plan outside of your strategic plan?
No, that's the plan. And just that was referenced earlier. That strategic plan was presented to the community and is on the MCA website as well. So we can definitely we can present it again if you want, but you definitely share the video of when we presented it. Every element went through to be presented.
So the other thing you might have a question on is with regard to the Akwesasne Mohawk Police Service, and I'm not sure maybe the portfolio holders there will be able to respond. I know Favor, you had reported that you're now meeting with the police commission maybe quarterly, as to get clarifications with respect to what laws are applied by Akwesasne Mohawk Police Service. And this goes back to the June general meeting where statements were made they do not apply for criminal laws here in Akwesasne. So just, I would like to hear back after, what do they do? I've heard in the past where they don't do community laws either, whereas a compliance state, is their issue to that. I thought our police force was a community police force. And I just want clarification. And if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I wonder if the general meeting, you had made reference to that. Any potential move to Cornwall Island has not yet been confirmed or solidified. But I believe there was another article in Indian Time announcing it.
Yeah, there was a sidestep that was announced publicly. It should not have been.
So is anybody gonna ask for it to be retracted?
Well, I'm not sure that it can be looked at, yes, but a decision has not been made.
So there's false information coming out to say, yeah, hey, we're moving.
Somebody jumped the gun on the speaking cops. Sorry about that. It's a bad analogy, but it should not have went out. That's council is working through and will be receiving a presentation at the end of the month on that. No, the decision has not been made.
But I know we had discussed about the whole issue of community consultation. There's a limit required for when you tap for the funding from government source that you have community consultations. And I know this is not only an infrastructure to be built, but it is a multi-year lease agreement that may be entered. And I know I asked before, what's the potential cost? What's the expense? What is that? What is our financial responsibility going to be if we go that route versus, maybe potentially looking at bridge financing to build a new building in Snaihne for a police station.
Yeah, so the design is like what they call a private-public partnership, is where basically we go to a builder and say, can you build this? Well, if you were to build this, how much would it cost us to rent it back monthly, right? So, because the problem is that, any infrastructure, whether it be an administration building, a police or a fire department, you're talking, anywhere from 10 to $20 million, right? And we don't have, we're not in a position to put $20 million on the table. So in some situations, we ask the government for contributions for some projects. But, so we're working through a public-private partnership on that. That's the concept, right? So we haven't arrived at whether or not it's financially feasible yet to be able to do that.
But have you saw other private individuals in Akwesasne to see if they can be able to do something similar?
No.
Is it sole source? Has it been advertised?
Well, it's not sole source per se, because nothing has been agreed to. But it's also, it's land availability, things like that, right? So it's just very difficult. We can't just say, can you build us a fire department in St. Regis, because there's no land enough to build in St. Regis.
No, I said.
No, I know that, I just hypothetically saying, yes.
Hypothetically, it's
Yeah.
not.
So, and then the press release has been removed from the website as well. It's been taken down, they should know. Okay.
Okay, that's it. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Okay, we're,
What was in the paper was from the Akwesasne the press release.
and it should not have been.
Just to mention,
Okay, bring the presentation up
real quick.
very quickly, please.
I just want to touch base on the funding part of it. The funder, which would be Quebec, Ontario, and the federal government, will not invest in building a new building for the police department. They won't. They'll only agree to do leasing or renting. There were two buildings that they looked at. The most operable one was the one on Cornwall Island. The other one was in Snaihne, but it did not fit the size that was needed for the future police force, because the police force is moving, the ambulance administration is moving, and who else is under them? Conservation, so there's gotta be enough offices to hold them all. That's why they looked at that size. Well, like he said, we're not done with it. We're still looking at seeing what's the best fit for it.
Thank you.
If Snaihne doesn't come up, then we'll do it.
Thank you. Sorry, there's a hand up on the line for a really long time. My apologies. We're gonna go to you and then we will, that'll conclude the questions from the floor. Go
Okay,
ahead.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So you really piqued my interest earlier when you were talking about good rules of governance. So this is the fourth time I'm asking for this. Can you please post all of your rules and regulations as it pertains to council conduct and the manner in which you conduct your meetings on the internet? Please, we deserve to know the rules that you have to live by. In addition to that, I know, first of all, I'd like to say to everybody listening, I know we're not a municipality in any province. I recognize that. But our rules of governance should be better than the minimum of the municipality acts. And these closed door Monday morning meetings that you have should be discontinued, and you should be voting on MCRs in the light of the public. No more hiding behind closed doors. We want to see you in action, and we'd like those changes made immediately. So, I mean, we shouldn't have to ask how you voted on resolutions. They should be done in front of our eyes. So if you can, without us having to get a petition, please broadcast your Monday morning meetings. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for that. And just the action item which was read at the beginning of the meeting, we do have the link on the MCA websites under the departments. If you go to Mohawk government, there are the documents now are listed that you've referenced. Okay, we are at 8:30. You've heard members of council have talked a lot about the presentations that they want to do. I think in all fairness to them that we will go through those presentations. So we do have the CBSA Borders Collaborative Initiative and then the MCA Capital Project update. They are both in your packages. I'll ask that we not read the slides word for word. You should have been able to study what this is, and we'll walk through it. So I'll start with the first one, and I can walk through a bit of that, is the MCA and CBSA Border Collaborative Initiative. So this initiative was essentially an initiative that was started in 2009, where we came together with CBSA and Public Safety Canada in what we considered as a design thinking forum, which basically brings together all of the stakeholders around, in this case, it was around the border crossing and us and CBSA, what it essentially came down to. And so from that 2019, sorry, I said 2009 earlier, 2019 meeting came what we've identified as these working circles. Now, several months ago, I think in the spring, we had presented at Cornwall Island, the JTBA information, and we talked about some of the high level work that we're doing on the J Treaty. And we also talked about, these circles, and one of the questions at that time was, well, that's great, this is at the national level around First Nations people crossing the border. What are we doing here in the community? So this information that we're sharing is exactly that, is what we're doing here in the community. So what we have is a work plan that's, and we'll bring up the next slide that shows, this is basically a flow chart of how this work that we're doing works. And so we have a leaders circle, which is basically the Grand Chief, this president of CBSA, and we oversee and direct the work that is going to happen to the circles that are, in this case, to the right, moving rightwards. So we have the governance circle, and then we have 3 in this case in this slide of the working circles that exist on the priority areas. And so as if you look at that slide, the circles to the right, the 3, they feed up into the governance circle in the middle, and then it goes back up to the leaders circle that oversees the work that's happening. So the governance circle is basically is administrative work and coordinates, basically takes the will of the high level or the leaders circle and ensures that work is being implemented. It is led by the MCA and CBSA. Shannon Rompoint, who is here with us from our communications department, assists with leading this work from administrative level. And they work, and they meet monthly to work on the specific issues. So the first one that we have is a domestic lane, and I'm going to ask a member of the domestic lane working group to just give us a high level of what that domestic lane means and how that translates into the work, or how that translates into affecting our community.
So forgive me, this was actually Chief Vince's homework, and I'm just kind of taking this off. So just to let you know that the working circle was created at the start of the initiative with a clear and specific purpose to create a domestic lane for those traveling through the port. As we know, we did get that. We have it. It was a pilot program. Now it is permanent, and this circle has collapsed into the domestic lane circle, and so one of the issues that they dealt with a lot within this circle was what was the questions that could be asked while going through the domestic lane. Sorry. We did recognize that the residents of Kentenhkó and Snaihne believe that a lane should be for any Akwesasne traffic, but the current location of the port of entry does not allow for this to happen. Future plans for the border and pre-clearance may allow for new changes that will accommodate the broader Akwesasne public. So the next circle that I was involved in was the community relations circle. The purpose of the circle is to build more of a positive relationship between the community and CBSA. Some of the things that we did within the circle was to we worked together with CBSA on the Orange Shirt Initiative, Orange Shirt Day campaign, which was commissioned the artwork of Joe King for the Orange Shirt Day, the hand logo that was used at CBSA ports across the country. The community relations working circle also included the development of documents, signage, and messages to improve the flow of information. A driver's guide booklet was developed early on, which provided those traveling through Akwesasne with information on what identification is needed at the border. And the circle has plans next to develop an economic development-based brochure to outline border processes for those shopping in Akwesasne. Recently, the Akwesasne Rights and Research Office has joined the Community Relations Working Circle to collaborate on the cultural sensitivity training that Arrow has been conducting with CBSA for many years. Well, they have worked independently on this prior to CBSA. There are opportunities to tie in their work to the efforts for training and education we are working towards in this circle.
All right, thank you. So what we've described is what was phase one. I didn't mention that earlier. So these were the first circles or priority areas that we have worked on. Now turning to the work that we're doing in the next phase, which is basically, we call it phases, but they're more of this year. We've, like Julie has mentioned, we have the economic development one. I think some of the things that, you know, she's gone over, or some of the smaller initiatives that the circle has been working on. If we look at the slide now, which is the second phase or the current fiscal year that we're working in, or work plan that we're working under, again, we have the leaders circle, we have the governance circle, and we have 4 of the priority areas. One is the Cornwall Port of Entry working circle. That includes now the domestic lane relation circle still continues to be there. The Dundee Port of Entry working circle is one of the newer ones, and the pre-clearance working circle is one of the newer ones. So I'm just going to turn to, if we could get somebody to talk about the Dundee Port of Entry working circle. So Sarah's going to help with that.
I sit on the Dundee board of the working circle. Historically, we know that it's been difficult to go through the Dundee. We don't have the same rights as when we go through Cornwall. So we've had regular meetings and we have open communication with the Dundee Port of Entry. We don't have land that is accessible by travel to the Dundee border. And with the recent settlement of the Dundee land claims, Akwesasne will be expanding its territory east, which will result in more regular use of the Dundee Port of Entry. Therefore, it's imperative that we begin to have these relationships and dialogue with the Dundee Port and work in collaboration. We meet regularly and identify our priorities, such as development of a new remission order similar to the one of the Port of Cornwall, for like the tax and duty, ensuring the use of the English language and not French, and incorporate our Mohawk communities, and development of point of contact for community announcements or community issues that should arise. So these are some of the issues that we have been in the discussions with them. Thank you.
Thank you. So the other circle that we have is the Cornwall Port of Entry working circle. Do we have a member who's going to speak to that?
Yeah, so myself and Julie both sit on the Cornwall Port of Entry working circle. So this circle didn't exist before it was the domestic lane pilot project. So that circle is no longer needed. So the Port of Cornwall, the Cornwall Port of Entry working circle was created together to work with CBSA on issues and improvements that arise that are specific to the Port of Cornwall. As with all circles, relationship building is part of the circle's purpose. As issues arise, we are able to discuss them quickly and often effectively reaching mutual understanding with respect. When community members are having concerns, that's where we come in and we are able to speak face to face with the CBSA supervisors and staff who can help to improve the situation. Sometimes immediately, sometimes it takes a couple meetings. When issues arise at the higher level of complexity, the leadership table is then called upon and they discuss the issue at the leadership meeting. Some of the topics that we have had meaningful discussions through at the Cornwall Port of Entry Circle include concerns of questioning of domestic travelers, concerns of intrusive questioning or about Akwesasne children, concerns of questioning or detaining of school buses, concerns of duty-free purchases made on Okanagan, the need for reporting exemptions for medical staff, medical transportation and staff, and most frequently, just this week, concerns with the new speed bumps causing physical damage to vehicles from bottoming out. With CBSA willing to hear our concerns and complaints with an open mind to improve the border crossing experiences, many of these issues can be easily addressed, and when they can't be, they are taken to the higher level of the leadership table. We encourage our community members to continue to share concerns with us by submitting them on the CBSA complaints and comments and complaints, mostly complaints, website to follow up. The circle also includes positive activities, including youth art call outs that we have, and we are hoping to showcase youth artwork with Mohawk culture at the port. And Akwesasne artist is also being commissioned to install a more permanent display of Akwesasne culture at the Port of Cornwall. Last spring, we were proud to coordinate school tours for the first time ever at CBSA, where they're located in Cornwall. Students tour the facilities with their school and MCA staff chaperoning and ask questions about the daily operations at the port and about working for CBSA. They also saw behind the scenes equipment, tools, and met the CBSA drug detection dog named Blue. These visits are intended to take the mystery out of crossing the border, and for youth in danger, we hope that they, you know, if they need to, they don't feel scared to go into the building or, you know, that kind of thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. The next circle that we have that is we wanted to report on, which is part of the work plan, is the pre-clearance working circle. Cindy.
So I sit on that, there's a lot of information that was provided in the templates, I'm just gonna run through an update on the project. So the purpose of the circle is to collaborate and explore possibilities of future CBSA port of entry on US soil adjacent to US customs and Roosevelt Town, Snaihne, New York. The need or interest in this has been identified in our earlier circle tables sessions. Both parties, MCA and CBSA, agree that the current location of the port of Cornwall Island is not ideal. That's no secret. Its location has created mixed corridor designation, which adds complexities and grievances for Akwesasne residents, especially as the other circles have already commented on. Currently, identified years ago, the potential solution, but legislation did not allow for the clearance. 2019 legislation opens the possibility. Studies, approvals, constructions could take up to 10 years. CBSA supports this pursuit. US officials currently support this pursuit as well. A lot of obstacles must still be overcome. Some of those include a pilot project, which will be conducted at a small port for research, and I believe that's in another area. As well as there's a requirement to have a feasibility study, including environmental impacts, which will be conducted per site. CBSA will continue meeting with MCA to provide updates and maintain open discussion will be ongoing.
Okay. So thank you so much. That again is the CBSA MCA board collaborative initiative that we have. We've given an outline of the circles that exist under the structure of that. We're going to pause for a moment to see if there are any questions on what we have presented. This presentation again is in your packages. Go ahead.
Just one real quick question. All of this being worked on, what are the statistics right now that you guys are seeing? Are we seeing decrease in complaints or increase? Is somebody tracking these statistics? And if you are, is it to our benefit in any way that those numbers help you through your processes of getting CBSA to cooperate? So are we tracking statistics of our people?
I would say we're tracking specific statistics. All of the experiences that they do collect, there's local and there's also national. So these are brought to the national table that we sit on, but these are also shared often immediately with the CBSA. So if we see online or if we happen to recognize that the bridge is lined up, then those things are handled relatively quickly, as well as the speed bumps that opened up. We were notified almost immediately as soon as cars started to bottom out, and Grand Chief was able to reach out directly to the Port of Cornwall. So those types of things have also been called to the port to assist with individuals there. So it's not necessarily a tracking of statistics. I will say that since we started this work, a lot of things are becoming more apparent because before we really weren't. We were dealing with like one-offs, I guess you'd say. So now things that we deal with more often, which are US natives crossing into Canada. So those types of things we're keeping track of, like I'm keeping track of specifically for the work that I do with the Great Treaty Border, but as well as for the work affecting Akwesasne here. So I wouldn't say I'm not creating any kind of, Excel spreadsheet, I'm really don't do that, I'm just making sure that we're handling them, relatively quickly, which is just to ease traffic flow through there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? Go ahead. The one that they're taking out, is that the one you're referencing, the speed bumps? Oh, those ones. It's to slow vehicles down. There have been situations where persons have just basically gone through and not stopped at all, so it's obviously a deterrent to slow vehicles down. But the speed bumps that she's referencing, where they had a plan to put in permanent ones, those ones that have been there are rubber ones that are kind of taped down to the road, or so they're putting concrete ones in, but the design failed, and they started removing them today, and they're going to put the rubber ones back in. Yeah, they're gone. Yeah, okay. Just as a matter of time check, I've just consulted with members of council. We have one more presentation, but what we're going to do is we're going to defer that presentation for this evening. I know that a lot of time and energy has went into that, and I don't want to diminish that one bit, but it is a relatively lengthy presentation, and it is in your packages. If you do have questions, please, the members of council who are on the portfolio have helped develop this presentation and are quite well versed in it, but we will present it at the next general meeting. Just based on time, it's a very lengthy presentation, and we're at 8:45 this evening. So having said that, we're going to defer this MCA capital project update. We're going to move to the acceptance of the general meeting minutes. So I'm going to read the resolution for the record to accept and approve the general meeting of minutes dated September 28, 2023. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Jackie, second by April. Discussion on the resolution? Questions been called on the resolution? All in favor? Any against the resolution? None against the resolution. Resolution is carried. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening on our November 2nd general meeting here at the Snaihne Recreation Center. As asked earlier, we haven't set the date for the next general meeting. It is because of the Christmas holiday coming in. We are lots of other community events happening. One of the things that I do want to announce, though, is that this year we will be having the holiday dinners in each district. So December 11th, we'll be having that here in the district of Snaihne. December 13th will be at the Ganado Recreation, and December 14th will be at the Goanoga Recreation. So those again will be community dinners with council and community. We're all invited. Please keep an eye on social media for that information. But otherwise, thank you so much to all of you for joining this evening. The which, sorry? Well, generally we general meeting once a month, yes. We haven't made a decision or a determination yet. We will announce it. Okay. All right, could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Cindy and Vanessa. All right, thank you very much, everybody, for this evening.